Well, hi there. Thank you for joining me today. And you know, I think it's time for a new quilt. Last one we did was the zigzag square quilt, and it was a lot of fun. So we got to move on and do another one. Now, the name of this is A Little Bit of Christmas. You can make it as a Christmas quilt. I won't be using Christmas fabrics, but you sure can. And someday I'm going to make it using Christmas fabrics. But before I tell you what you need, because you're probably gonna pass out, but remember just to take your time. And the hardest, not the hardest part, but the most time-consuming part of this is the cutting it out, okay? But if you look at the picture, isn't that going to be gorgeous? And if you'll, first thing you look at is, oh, I can do that. Yes, you can. You can surely make this. If you will see, it consists of 2.5-inch squares, and there's 5 across and 5 down, meaning 25 in each block. So simple, so simple. Now, for what you're gonna need, and you can get this pattern on the internet, it's from Quilter's World, and Winter 2016. Quilter's World, Winter 2016. Okay. My quilt is for a nephew, and he didn't care what the pattern was, and he didn't care what the fabrics were. So you can't beat a deal like that. So I'm making this for him. Now, it calls for 2.5-inch strips or a jelly roll, but you need more than one jelly roll. If you are going to make this strictly out of jelly rolls, you would need two packages. Well, I only have one. And this is blues, pretty blues, and some yellow. So I went looking, and I found probably 10, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 different blues. 14 different blues. Now, I will have to cut 2.5-inch strips out of this for a jelly roll. Well, you see this, this is not near long enough. Well, yeah, that might be long enough for a jelly roll. But I have bits and pieces, and I'm going to use them. And I'm going to cut me 2.5-inch strips and then subcut. Now, I've told you this many times before. You don't have to have exactly what it calls for. If it says you need a jelly roll and you've got scraps and you want to use them, you use them. And you cut them into 2.5-inch lengths and subcut them and see how many you can get. Okay, now let me, excuse me. Let me tell you the scary part. You need 841 2.5-inch squares. Whoa. Don't let that scare you off. This is going to make a 68 by 68. You just do it in easy little steps, and before you know it, you'll have the 841 knocked out in no time, okay? Now, a jelly roll, and I've told you this before, a jelly roll is not a true 2.5-inch strip. It's just not. I don't care how good the product is, they're not always true. So I like to use, it's a little 3.5 inch square. And I put it on my jelly roll strip to my 2.5. And all I have to do is cut on one side, and if I have to trim on the other, just a little bit. But I know then that I have a 2.5 inch. So I don't stack 4 or 5 jelly roll strips and cut 2.5 inch squares. I don't trust myself to have them lined up that well, and I don't care how good you are, it's hard to do. So I do one strip at a time. That's the way it is. And then I be sure that they are 2.5 inch square. Because when you start putting these together, you want that block of 25 to go perfectly, because you're going to be able to see it's off if it's not done properly. And you can't have a 2 1/4 and a 2.5 and a 2 3/8, and you can't have those kind of little squares. You've got to have a 2.5 inch square. Now also remember, when we start putting these together, to use a scant 1/4 inch. That will give you a much truer block, and you will be so happy with it. And to achieve that, you will have to fool around on your machine. For me, it's simply putting my needle over to the right one step, just one place. That gives me, and where I place it, it gives me a perfect scant 1/4 inch. Okay, my jelly roll has blues and a little bit of, tiny bit of green, but not much, and some yellow. So when I went looking for blues and yellows, or anything that had some yellow in it. That's kind of orange, but it has yellow in it. And here's another one. And I just have a Duke's mixture. Well, this is a Duke's mixture. Look at all of those patterns, all those different fabrics. So it doesn't matter. It's gonna blend, it's gonna look nice. So use what you have. I have a few darks, not a whole lot, but a few darks, because you want a dark ever so often in there. And then this white is, you need 2 yards. 2 yards for your sashing, and then it also makes a little border. And that's 2 yards. Now, I don't know, we'll talk about what you need for your backing later, because we won't be anywhere close to that. So that's all we need to know for right now, is you need 841 2.5 inch squares. So you have an assignment after you get this. You don't really have to get the pattern. I mean, get the pattern, but you don't have to wait for it. You can start cutting out your 2.5 inch squares. And don't jump ahead though. If you get real energetic and you get them all cut out, don't go sewing, don't sew yet. Because I just have a few tips I want to tell you before you start doing that. And then after we make 25 of these, 25 5x5 blocks, then we need some for the corner. And we're gonna make 12 for the sides and the corner. See this right here, this right here, there's one, there's one. So all these side pieces, we're gonna make 12 of those. So we have a lot to do, but slowly but surely we'll get it done. When people see a pattern and they look at that and they, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Yes, you can do that. It's just a matter of taking a deep breath and saying I can do that, and slowly but surely, one video at a time, you can do it. I guarantee you. So, now, there again, if you want to order, it's out of the Quilter's World magazine, Winter 2016, and the name of it is A Little Bit of Christmas. So, get ready. It's going to be fun. And it's going to make, oh, and I got to tell you real fast, I got these two, I've got quite a bit, a yard and a half, maybe even 2 yards of each. This is going to be part of my backing. And I thought I would just go ahead and I have to get the sashing, the white. So I'm going to get enough to do the back. And for your binding, they tell you to save 8 strips. 8 strips for your binding. I got this, I see my $8 on there. You know, I'm an estate sale shopper, and I got 2 of these. They're not the same, but I've always wondered what I wanted to do with it, and here it is. It's always the perfect time